This is the Venus de Milo. It was discovered in an underground cavern on the island of Milos a little over 2 centuries ago. Most people think that it's a sculpture, and that it was therefore made by a sculptor. But I'd like to challenge this silly superstition. I say there's no way the Venus de Milo had a sculptor. Think about it. What sort of sculptor would make a statue of Venus with no arms? You know as well as I that any sculptor worthy of the name would have put some arms on this thing. Since we know that a sculptor would have made a statue of Venus with arms, and yet we find no arms, it should be obvious to everyone that the armlessness of this, whatever it is, makes belief in a sculptor completely irrational. The Venus de Milo we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, no chisels, no mallets, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, the sculptor did make the statue with arms. They just fell off later, like that zombie's arm in Thriller. But what conclusive scientific proof have you been given that there were ever arms on this marble monstrosity? You've been given no conclusive scientific proof, which means you believe by blind faith that the Venus de Milo is a sculpture. And if you're going to believe that nonsense by blind faith, you might as well believe in a flying spaghetti sculptor and wear a spaghetti strainer on your brainless head and eat a big bowl of SpaghettiOs with all your leprechaun friends over at Bigfoot's house. Of course, sculptards everywhere pretend that the Venus de Milo can only be explained by appealing to an intelligent designer. But one of the most fundamental principles of atheistic reasoning is that we should never use intelligence to explain something when there are perfectly good, non-intelligent explanations right at our fingertips, which we have. So, what's our non-intelligent explanation for the Venus de Milo? As always, we shine our Darwin fish signal up the clouds to alert the real hero of every atheist comic book story, Captain Chance. So, how can Captain Chance explain something like the Venus de Milo? Easily. Rocks form in all kinds of shapes and sizes, don't they? Surely, given enough time and enough rocks forming all over the planet, Captain Chance would have no problem producing a rock shaped exactly like this. If you doubt the power of Captain Chance to produce things that give the appearance of design, welcome to the D. Wood School of Comparative Probability. Today's lesson: the odds of the Venus de Milo forming by chance are a joke compared to the odds of the universe permitting life. The constants of physics have to be finely tuned with unimaginable precision, or we wouldn't be here. If Captain Chance can scale that Mount Improbable, how much easier is it for him to scale a hunk of marble shaped like a deformed goddess? In case you're still not convinced, think about life. Even the simplest living cell is vastly more sophisticated than the Venus de Milo. You'd get an army of Venus-shaped rocks before you'd get a single living cell by chance. If Captain Chance has such spectacular power to create life, how is this pale imitation of life going to stand in his way? Instead of doubting our hero, Captain Chance, I say we give him a promotion. He's Major Chance now. Major Chance put around 6 feet of DNA in each of your 20 to 40 trillion cells. The DNA that Major Chance inserted into each of your 20 to 40 trillion cells is a set of instructions for building you. Imagine scientists examining the Venus de Milo and finding out that it's composed of trillions of tiny parts, and that each of these trillions of tiny parts contains a set of instructions for building the entire thing. Even that wouldn't be evidence for an intelligent designer, because you're composed of trillions of tiny parts that contain sets of instructions for building you, and that's no evidence for an intelligent designer, right? It's all Major Chance. But in fact, there are no tiny parts containing sets of instructions here. It's a useless hunk of marble. Ladies and gentlemen, only a fool would believe that this is really a sculpture of Venus. Just as the defects in our world prove that our world couldn't have been created by God, so also the defects of the Venus de Milo prove that it couldn't have been made by a sculptor. Yet the Venus delusion has infected billions of weak minds. It may seem like a harmless delusion, but the results have been catastrophic. All the millions of combined hours people have spent staring at this eyesore could have been spent curing cancer. Cancer thus persists because the Venus delusion persists. So, belief in a sculptor is not only stupid, it's also dangerous. I now rest my airtight case, and I encourage you to join me in endlessly ridiculing all the pathetic, brainwashed morons who share the Venus delusion. Relentlessly mocking them for believing in a magical sky sculptor will help you feel good about yourself without having to do the difficult work of actually accomplishing anything ever. This message has been brought to you by a generous grant from the Association of Richard Dawkins Drones and the Society for the Prevention of Common Sense.